What's up, guys? It is Carly here, bringing you episode number 25 of the Netflix and Chill Horror Podcast. As always, I am joined with the one and only homie, JP. JP, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing swell. Glad to be back. Our first episode of 2019 of the Netflix and Chill Horror Podcast. We skipped out on January, but we're here in February.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you know.
Shut up. Don't.
Okay,
don't.
we won't even say anything. We'll just see how it goes.
Yeah, but for January, to be fair, I even said, we were going to try to put out a lot more episodes this year, but I feel like with this show, January is very lacking in new material anyway. It's kind of like the leftovers from 2018, but I feel like we're starting to get some stuff for the year, so hopefully we will get at it.
Yeah, and January, there was nothing coming out, honestly.
That's what I just said.
No, that's not what you said.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not. You said it was pretty light, but I was like, there's literally nothing that came out.
I said typically January is lacking, and we are left with the 2018 leftovers. I don't think you were listening.
No, I was. I'm just saying, I actually mean that nothing came out. Like, you were saying it as if, there wasn't much, but I'm saying, nothing. Literally nothing came out.
Well, I kind of just meant, in general, January. Sometimes you'll get, one move or two moves.
No,
so
I agree with that. I'm saying that nothing came out this time.
Okay, fair enough.
The only thing that came out was
ignored what I said.
Cold Skin, which was a film that we had already watched in 2018.
A leftover
we didn't
from
review
2018.
It, but yeah, I didn't feel like rewatching it. So yeah, that was about it. And then I think that there might have been another thing that came out that was I don't know, borderline horror, but
yeah,
I don't know. And then this came out, what we're doing here tonight, which is another TV series, which is Conversations with a Killer, the Ted Bundy tapes. Did I get that right?
You did. I'm proud.
I did that off of memory.
Really?
Yeah, which came out in January, late January, January 24th to be exact. I had actually watched the whole thing before February ended, but didn't really have a record date. Before January ended, rather. But yeah, so that's what we're doing this time. I do want to eventually get, it actually would have been a perfect time to do more Black Mirror.
Oh, yeah.
Or even that Sabrina show. But,
oh, yeah.
Or even Stranger Things, because I've never watched those.
Yeah. Yeah, you do need to watch Stranger Things. I think it's a little overrated. I'm not huge on the second season, but I love the first season.
Well, they completely skipped the third season. It just never came out.
Oh, yeah, once again.
Yeah, but they are doing a third season. They just skipped a year.
I forgot about that they didn't do one that year, but it's because TV shows, like I said before, it's you watch them, and then you're like, man, I have to wait a whole year or two or whatever for the next season to come out, and then you kind of lose track of time, and then it's out. So
yeah, but I think the only other thing that I know is on the Velvet Buzzsaw just came out, so that's something we could do. And then I think the other one that came out, or is about to come out, is that Horror Noir, the Black History in Horror, which makes sense because it's Black History Month, but it's a documentary on black folk in horror.
Yeah, it's on Shudder.
Them black folk. I sounded incredibly racist without meaning to.
I was going to say, dude, let's tone it down a little bit.
Yeah, no, but I'm excited for that because unlike you, who is racist, I actually know a lot about black history and horror. The most black you know about horror is Tony Todd.
What? Listen, dude, I met Tony Todd, and also my cousin's cousin is black. I'm not racist. That's actually true.
But did you know? Do you even know who Pam Grier is?
Yeah, she was in Blackula or Blackenstein. She was in
No,
Blackenstein.
she wasn't.
She was in. She has like an afro.
Not all the time.
She does. Okay, well, some. I know who you're
You
talking
know,
about, dude.
you know what she was in that you might know.
What? What?
Have you ever seen The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
Not really.
What the hell is wrong with you? Weren't
I
you
did
born
not.
in the 90s?
Uh, kind of.
See, you
I
are
didn't.
racist. You didn't even watch Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Everybody knows that
I
if you
watched
watch
the
Fresh Prince
Cosby
of
Show.
Bel-Air, you're not racist.
I watched the Cosby
That
Show, and
wasn't
I
even
watched
real black
Family
people.
Matters, and what? And I watched The Proud Family on Disney Channel. Shout out to the 2000s kids out there.
Dude, nobody
Um,
cares. Nobody cares about
that's
2000s
so
kids. That
Raven.
will never be a thing. 2000s kids represent, or like 2000s babies will remember this. That will never catch on.
I'm just saying all
It
those
will never
memes
catch
that
on
are.
because nobody cares. It was a stupid decade.
I'm just saying all those memes that are like only 90s kids remember. I remember those because hey, they're actually 2000s things as
No,
well, or
they're
just are.
not.
Yes, they are.
No. Anyway,
Okay, but anyway, I'm not racist.
so that horror noir thing sounds pretty cool. I'm pretty excited. I'm actually really excited for that. I love horror docs for one. It's a
Mhm.
Shudder either original or exclusive, and it is pretty cool. What do you think? You think it's cool?
Yeah, I think it looks pretty cool. I also enjoy watching documentaries. I mean, I think it's kind of nice to just sit back and watch, take a break from a movie and just watch something that kind of explores movies or like anything that has to do with that, such as the blacks in the movies and whatnot.
Yeah, you know what's really cool about the Shudder Wikipedia page
What?
is there is a section that is exclusives slash originals,
Yeah.
and I made that. I'm
I
not even
forgot.
joking.
I forgot about that.
I made it. I made that little table that shows all the exclusives, originals, and the dates that they aired. However, I think when I made it, I only made it up until We Go On, which was like February 2017.
Mhm.
So somebody actually has been keeping up with it because it has everything else on there now. So just for an
And
example, this is what all they had in 2018, which we missed so many of these, which makes me sad and makes me want to try harder in 2019 to keep up. But they had Don't Grow Up, which we actually did, George Scott Season 2, Mayhem, which was one of those 2017 films that we weren't going to do, Dead Shack, which we did, Last One's Out, which we didn't do, Cold Hell, which we didn't do, Monsters, which we didn't do, Born to Kill, which we didn't do, Downrange, which we didn't do, which I wanted to do.
I watched it too and
I
everything.
watched it too. Stillborn, which we didn't do.
Yeah, we
Sequence
did.
Break. Oh wait, yeah, we did do Stillborn.
Give us some credit, dude.
Yeah, we did do Stillborn. Sequence Break, we didn't do. Supermax, we didn't do. Trepalium, which we didn't do. Ruin Me, which we did do. Todd and the Book of Pure Evil, which we didn't do. Channel Zero, we didn't do. Angel By, we didn't do. Actually, some of these aren't. They don't have all of them on there, and Hell House LLC too, because they don't have Terrified. Terrified. They don't have what was the other one? Witch in the Window.
Yeah.
They actually don't have a few of those. So
They don't have Revenge either. Wasn't that one of them?
Revenge. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that was one of them.
It
Yep.
was a big one. Yeah. Or Mandy. So this guy's slacking. Whoever took up your
I know.
picked up your
I
slack.
need to get back on there and see. I think you can see who edited them. Actually, is there a way? Because that would be kind of
There used to be,
interesting.
I think. But you're like you kind of hold Shutter's hand throughout life. I feel like you got them on the Xbox and you pimped out their Wikipedia page, so they should be paying you, I think.
Yeah, I know. I am such a Shudder, you know, guy.
Yeah. But a
um,
lot of some of those things you mentioned were also like TV series, and I feel like we kind of like to try to focus on the movies anyway, just for time's sake. But
yeah, we don't do a lot of the movies or the TV shows. Yeah, so some of them we will do, but some of them we won't. We don't do. But yeah, there was a lot of streaming that we did a lot. We watched a lot of streaming for 2018. I think it was a great year for streaming,
mhm.
which is funny because we didn't have that many episodes last year. Which I don't even know. What do you think? Like under 10? Did we
Yeah,
have 10 in the whole last year? I don't even know.
trying to think. We did Revenge, The Ritual. I don't know. It felt like it was more than usual, honestly, which is kind of
Really?
sad. But honestly, when we were doing like the top 10 show on your main show, I was like, we're naming off movies like The Ritual and stuff, and I'm like, oh, we did that, oh, we did that, and Cam and all that, and it felt like a lot, but in reality, I'm trying to think. It was probably around maybe,
Like I don't even feel like we did one a month.
oh, definitely not, but um, maybe eight.
Yeah. My goal is to do a lot more this year. I want to. It's mainly me that the problem is. Honestly, you know that.
Yeah.
I just don't. It's like all the like we have. I have a lot of time sometimes, and then other time I don't at all. Like I have zero time. So I don't know. We'll try. I'll try.
Yeah, all we can do is try.
But for example, in terms of streaming, I had one, two, which Summer of '84. That was another one that wasn't on there. I had three films in my top 10 that were streaming, and out of those three, two of them was Shudder exclusives.
Dang.
Were Shudder exclusives, and then I also had Stillborn at number 11, which was a Shudder exclusive. But yeah, there was a lot of cool streaming titles. I'm excited for 2019 and seeing what comes out. But yeah, so anyway, what we're here for this month, or maybe this month, this show, is Ted Bundy, or the Conversations with a Killer, the Ted Bundy tapes.
Yeah, I kept forgetting the title. I just keep calling it Ted Bundy.
Not to be confused with Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile, which is the feature film about Ted Bundy, also directed by Joe Berlinger. How about that?
Wow.
I actually didn't know that. But yeah, that film is actually directed by Joe Berlinger, and this film is directed, or this miniseries is directed by Joe Berlinger. So this, like I said, it came out January 24th, 2019. It's a 4-part documentary series from Joe Berlinger. And you might know Joe Berlinger from Paradise Lost, The Child Murders at Robin Hood Hills, which is a documentary that came out in 1996. It also was my number 2 horror film, quote unquote, of 1996. One, because 96 was such a lacking year in terms of horror. And two, it's actually really horrific. It might not be a horror film, but it's horrific subject matter. And in my opinion, it's one of the greatest documentaries ever made. That is Paradise Lost, The Child Murders at Robin Hood Hills, which he also went on to do Paradise Lost 2, Revelations, as well as Paradise Lost 3, Purgatory in 2011. Which is the Paradise Lost trilogy. He also made Blair Witch 2, Book of Shadows, which is one of my favorite films. And, you know, his vision was a little compromised with Blair Witch 2. There's a whole history on that, where the studio made him insert things that didn't really fit in the film and stuff like that. He's also done like a ton of like documentaries on musicians and little shorts and things like that on like heavy metal bands and things like Metallica and stuff. And he also directed a documentary that I don't know if it's out yet, but it was called Raising Hell, The Visions of Clive Barker. And now we know that he's actually making a film involving the Ted Bundy character, played by Zac Efron, I believe.
Yeah.
Which is got actually quite a bit of stir over the past week or two for, I guess it screened at Sundance. And people were saying that it, what was the word that I seen Bloody Disgusting use? It was something to do with, like, irresponsible or something. I forget what the actual word was they used for their review, but I'm going to look it up. But yeah, so Ted Bundy is an interesting serial killer.
Yes.
And I think that the thing about Ted Bundy is that a lot of people know of him. A lot of people are aware of his crimes, but I don't think a ton of people knew where, like, the details about him, including yourself, which we'll get into in a second. But just to circle back to that Sundance review, the quote was, "Extremely wicked, shockingly evil, and vile, entertains but feels irresponsible." And I believe that was the reason other people were saying that on Twitter as well, that they make Zac Efron too likable, and it makes it to where it feels like you're almost like on the side of this guy or something. You know, the Norman Bates effect.
Yeah.
Except for this is a real life serial killer, so we'll see with that. We'll see about how that actually is. I have to see it for myself to understand if they're off base or not. But I thought it was a pretty interesting thing, because what we know about Ted Bundy is he is extremely. That was what he was known for, being like almost likable, like well spoken. You look at him and think this guy couldn't have done that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, compared to all the other known killers out there, I mean, Jeffrey Dahmer looks like a psychopath. Ed Gein, I mean, he's just like an older dude, but he looks like he could be doing this stuff because he was just kind of weird. But yeah, this guy.
Now, Charles Manson looks like a class president or something, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
no.
No, I get what you're
No.
saying. Like, that was what was so shocking about it. And so, Conversations with the Killer, the Ted Bundy tapes, like I said, is a 4-part series. The first episode is Handsome Devil. We're not going to go episode by episode, but the second episode is One of Us. The third episode is Not My Turn to Watch Him. And then fourth episode is Burn, Bundy, Burn. All 4 were released on the same date, which was January 24th, 2019. And it's a series, so it's, I think an hour or so per episode. And let's just start by saying, what did you know about Ted Bundy? I'll start. I knew of Ted Bundy because when I was a kid, primarily in middle school and high school, whenever we got to go to the computer library with the computers in the library, it was like kind of new to us. We had computers, but they weren't like internet access, like do research type computers. It was just like do your accelerated reader tests on them when I was in like elementary school and stuff. So I do remember like having access to the internet for the first time in school. It probably sounds weird to anybody who's younger than me because they probably just grew up with the internet in school, but we didn't always have it. I was in the weird transitional period where like half of my life I didn't have technology, and then the other section I did. But I would always do research on serial killers because they fascinated me, and I would read books in the library about them, and I would do reports either on serial killers or marijuana because I wanted to be edgy and cool. So that was kind of my thing. I did it all the time anytime we were able to do reports on, whatever we wanted, or, historical figures or whatever. And I wasn't the only one. I remember there was this girl named Corinne who did an Ed Gein one at the same time that I was doing one on Jeffrey Dahmer, just out of coincidence. and hers was more like based on this. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre killer was more like this and not like this. So I thought that was even cool that she did, tied in Texas Chainsaw back then.
And then you went on to Banger.
Mm, So anyway,
I was just kidding, but okay.
so anyway, I knew of Ted Bundy for doing research on serial killers. I used to do it all the time. There was TV shows that I would record, like little docs, like Most Evil or something, and it was like little half-hour things on serial killers that I used to watch and stuff. So I was pretty familiar with Ted Bundy. I had seen the 2002 movie. I think I'd seen another Ted Bundy movie, so very familiar for the most part. Was there another? Yeah, there was one. Was there one from 76? Was the Deliberate Stranger Ted Bundy? Do you know?
I do not. Hold on. I know my mom said she watched a movie on Lifetime about him.
Yeah, no, the Deliberate Stranger was 86,
Yeah.
which was a Ted Bundy movie. And then they did another one, which I had seen back on Monster Vision, the Deliberate Stranger. I think it's like a 3-hour like TV movie or something like that. That made Dave's 1986 list, I believe, at number 10. And then I watched another one for 2002 just called Ted Bundy, or just called Bundy, I don't remember. So I've seen a handful of Ted Bundy movies. And
Oh, this is the one that my mom saw on Lifetime, The Deliberate Stranger.
Yeah, I used
Sorry,
to play
go
on
on.
Lifetime. I do remember that. But I do remember, watching this episode 1, I started to kind of feel like, I've seen this all before. It's not really doing anything new for me. But I will say that it quickly changed after like maybe episode 1, and then I started learning a lot more, which I thought was cool. So what is your history with Ted Bundy?
Well, I feel like I wasn't really like you or like a lot of other people where they're super into serial killers. I mean, anytime someone brought them up or I saw anything on them, I thought it was pretty cool, but I didn't really go out of my way to learn about anyone in particular. But I feel like with Ted Bundy, I probably knew the least amount about him just because he wasn't like over the top with, he wasn't like eating people or skinning them alive or doing anything crazy. He was just kind of like your typical serial killer that you would see in a basic slasher movie or something. But so all I really knew about him was he was he was kind of like a handsome guy, and he murdered pretty young women around my age, and that went on for several years. So that is legit. All I really knew about him. I knew he was executed as well, but so watching this documentary, I feel like I actually learned quite a bit. When I started watching it, I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this because I've said before I don't really get into that stuff all that much. It reminded me of like making a murder, and we already had that argument before where sometimes I just don't like stuff and sometimes I do. So but watching it, I was really, really interested throughout the whole thing. I feel like I know everything about this guy now, and I saw a few just written reviews and people kind of complaining and saying that, oh, we could have just Googled all this information. It doesn't really teach us anything new. But if you're like me and you go into it not being someone who Googled everything about him or knowing anything about him prior, I think it's a pretty interesting documentary.
Yeah, it definitely is. Like, I love when I love when new Netflix stuff comes out because it reminds me of how ingrained Netflix is in our society, because you start seeing, people talk about it on Facebook a lot, but even in real life you start hearing people say like, oh, I watched that new Ted Bundy thing, and you're like, oh yeah, like I forget that people literally just wait for new Netflix stuff to come out and then they watch it like day one.
Yeah, everyone I work with.
That's pretty cool. Like, I don't know why I like it, but it's always interesting to me when a bunch of people are talking about something. I know some people just don't like they avoid it and then they'll watch it on their own once the hype has died down. But I almost like the hype. I like seeing people excited about something. But I remember reading that people, seeing people say like, "Oh my god, I was so sucked into this thing," and it makes me kind of appreciate the quality of this, because there was so much that I still, even though I said there was a lot of new stuff I learned, there was still a lot of it that I had known or forgot or, was reminded of. So it wasn't as, I wasn't sucked into this as some people were, because I knew the story. I had seen a couple movies on it. I read a couple articles and things like that throughout time. So it didn't grab me like that, but I was happy to see that it grabbed other people like that. Like maybe how Paradise Lost did for me and Jeremy. But so Ted, I don't even know how to tackle this thing because it is a lot. But let's just talk about, whatever we want. So first of all, I think that it's kind of interesting. I don't know if I learned, because I know the movies like skip his childhood and you don't really hear much about his childhood. And then I think that most things that I've seen don't really talk about his childhood. So they do go into his childhood a little bit in this one. It seems like by most accounts, including his own, which you can never believe him because you never know if he's telling you the truth or not. His childhood was good.
Yes. It seemed his family seemed very just your normal basic family, and that type of stuff freaks me out. It's one of the reasons I don't want to have kids, because I don't want to have my kid grow up and then murder people.
Bundy.
Yeah, by accident, like, because you don't get the vibe that these people are teaching him to murder anyone. Like his childhood friend is kind of saying, "Oh, they had him all involved in like baseball and all these activities,
Football,
and
sports,
trying so hard to just have these like normal children," and then he just had his own mental thing going on there. So, yeah, that type of stuff definitely freaks me out, and I feel like that's kind of the case with most people. It's not your parents that are making you that way. You just decide to do what you want.
I always am so amazed at the way that these things are put together. Like, I almost find them more impressive than films, because I always think about the nightmare of editing this thing and like having to go find all these clips and like knowing that you're going to put this here and that there, and like even to the fact that like all the news footage and stuff, like how do you even begin to assemble this thing? You know what I mean? It's just crazy.
I thought it was very well put together, and I thought they got a lot of very relevant, good people to actually speak and do many interviews for it as well.
Yeah, they do have a lot of talking heads, but I noticed while watching it that they always had like pictures or a clip of something to show when they were talking about something. Sometimes it would actually be footage of Ted Bundy. Other times it would just be like stock footage or something of like, for example, in the final episode when they're talking about the electric chair and stuff, and they're talking about walking him down to the electric chair and things like that, they're just showing stock footage of, I think, an electric chair, which is pretty cool that they were able to do that. But I think they actually, and I never know if it's stock footage or if it's like, oh, this was footage from that day, so that's pretty cool, because I know there was footage from that day too, I think. So you never really know, but it is quite seamless is what I will say.
Yeah, definitely. While watching this, one of the things you said is how he's known for being this guy that everyone's like, oh, he would never do that. He's such a sweet, well-spoken man, and he seems like he would be a gentleman and just your typical dude. And, the first episode or the first two episodes, maybe I do feel that way. And then as you're kind of watching it, you just see his sort of evil side come out and see how kind of just big-headed and full of himself and just kind of out of his mind he really is by the end. And I think they do a good job of kind of having that kind of build as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, early on, You see the side of him that is in the public's eye. You see the political stuff, which I was unaware of. Maybe I knew
Yeah,
and
me too.
forgot, but to see isn't it weird to see footage of somebody who went on to be a killer? You know what I mean? It's just eerie.
Yeah, like,
Because
yeah,
you
I didn't
see
know.
footage of him, like, in, like, pictures and stuff in newspapers of, like, political rallies and things like that, and you're like, holy crap, like, nobody knew this guy was a serial killer. Like, because I think even by that time he had killed people, or
Hmm.
close to it. And that's just, it's chilling. You start thinking about that, and it got me thinking about, like, like, people that I cross paths with every day, maybe even have a conversation with random people, especially in my, job. I
Hmm.
meet people from all over the place and talk to people every day from all over the place. Have I ever talked to somebody who had killed somebody and gotten away with it?
This just kind of reminded me of a side story that actually, when my mom told me a story when she was young, that this girl, this like 12-year-old girl went missing, and they found her body, like she was like raped and murdered in this house, and they couldn't find the killer. And then years later they found out who did it, and it was actually a guy that my grandpa was good friends with. So it's like, and he went on for like several years, and no one knew that he freaking did this horrible thing to this girl. So it is extremely freaky. And I mean, it also, just watching that stuff reminds me of like that infamous dating game show where that dude went on there and then he won, and he was going to end up killing the girl that he won with, but she didn't go out with him because he was creepy. Like, just stuff like that is really weird. And I wasn't aware that Ted Bundy was actually kind of a respectable guy before he started doing all that either. Like, he not only a
Yeah.
respectable guy, but he's actually like in the limelight, and like like you said, a politician, and a lot of big people knew him.
Yeah, it's very weird because after you learn that, you see, like, oh yeah, I could totally see why people wouldn't think he would do this. And you got to keep in mind, even though later in the film, or the episodes, we start seeing the dark side of him, that's stuff that is told secondhand. You know what I mean? That's not something that, like, the rest of the world would be able to see at that moment. That's after the
Mhm.
fact stuff. So he had a great facade to, the public, or to people, like, even his goddamn parents, dude. Like, I don't know, like, they said that he was, like, had a good family and stuff, but I think something was up with his parents, because the final
Mhm.
thing you hear about them with the apple pie and the ice cream and stuff, very weird. That was very weird.
I don't exactly remember
Dude, what the
what
hell?
you like. I don't remember the apple pie stuff.
Seriously? It was like a huge
Yeah,
moment
but I
in the last episode.
maybe I wasn't paying attention during that part, but like the the mom, anytime they interviewed her, kind of, as an older woman, when they're actually interviewing her, and they're asking, do you think your son did this and all that, she actually does kind of give me a weird vibe. She just seems very weird. And then when she finds out that he did it, it's almost, her reaction just doesn't
What's her
feel.
reaction? Oh, you mean in the courtroom?
Yeah, whenever he's actually sentenced and he's actually guilty, and she's like saying, "Oh, I have daughters too. I can't imagine this happening to them." I think it's just because I think of,
Yeah, but
if I was
she, at
killing
the
people,
same time, I don't think believed that he did it.
well,
I feel like
I don't
you
know.
didn't pay attention here. Um,
Okay, go on.
yeah, so she says that speech in the courtroom, which I thought was interesting, because she said that he shouldn't get life in prison, because, and it was creepy, she said, like, something along the lines of, he can still be of value to so many people in the world,
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I did
and
pay attention to that.
to have him taken out of our lives, a piece of all of us would be missing or something. I'm like, Jesus. But what I was referring to is, after they did interviews with Ted, the guy who's doing the interview with Ted, who got Ted to speak in the third person, which essentially relieves him of all admission, because he's saying, well, I think if somebody were to do this, they would do it this way. You know what I mean? So that's the whole
Yeah.
concept behind the third person. He's never technically admitting that he did it. He's just saying that if somebody were to do it, I'd say they would bury the body over here. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of interesting. And so when they had those tapes at the end of the documentary, they take them to the parents and play them for them. And their reaction is very weird because she lets out like a couple of little cry things, and then she at the end she's just like, "Who's ready? Who wants some apple pie and ice cream?" And then the investigator, the journalist says, "So then we ate apple pie and ice cream, and that was it." So it was weird. That's what I was referencing there.
I apologize. I think I did completely just overlook that, but yeah,
Yeah, it's
I don't
like
know.
she
And then
didn't either. Like it's a hard.
it might be a
It's
shocking
weird to
reaction.
take it. Did she understand that that was pretty much a confession, and it made her sad, and she just decided to not care about it, like to block it out, like it was a coping thing, or did she still not believe that he did it? You know what I mean? That's what I'm curious about.
Hmm. I can almost take it as she might not have believed it,
Yeah.
but I
Very
mean,
interesting with the parents. I would like to know more. I always am fascinated by the parents' angle of things, how they
yeah,
reacted. Because I had seen a long time ago an interview with, I believe, Jeffrey Dahmer's mom or dad. I don't remember which one, maybe both. And that was interesting. But it's always interesting. And then, of course, My Friend Dahmer was based on a story that a guy who was friends with Jeffrey Dahmer in high school wrote, which is interesting. So I'm always most curious about the people surrounding the serial killer.
yeah. Like I thought, I liked how that one older woman was like a friend of his as a child, and then even at the end, she's kind of like he could have been something great, but no, he decided to just go his way. And I thought that was really chilling. Like
Yeah.
he could have lived his whole life with these urges to murder women, but and just not done it, but instead he just went right ahead. So I really like that too, and I found stuff really interesting in this with him having a girlfriend. I didn't know that he
Yeah,
had an actual girlfriend at one point, and they're
multiple,
kind
I
of
think he had,
well, he had a wife or what? I mean, a fake. I don't know.
Well,
That's
that
the thing
was
at the end.
so I must have missed something, but what the person that he married while in prison, was that somebody new, or was that one of his old flings?
I think that was someone completely new, like sort of how Charles Manson had crazy people who would like. I think he was married to like a 28-year-old woman. I think that was a new just supporter of him who believed in him and was
Yeah,
like,
that was
I
a
want to marry this
shocking
man.
revelation. We'll get to that in a second because that's towards the end.
Yeah.
But I don't know, and you made a good point the other day when we were talking about this. So we know who Ted Bundy is, the notorious Ted Bundy. We know everything about him at this point. One thing we don't care about or care to remember is who his victims were. I can't tell you a single name of the people that he killed, any of them, and I don't remember what they even look like. And it is sad because they are just this person who is just attached to this heinous act in the worst way possible, and yet nobody even cares or knows who they are.
And they keep showing their pictures throughout the thing, and even thinking about it now, I get chills. I'm just these are, especially they're all girls that are around my age. I mean, they were only 18 to 21-year-old women, and then it seemed like as time went on, he was targeting like
Don't worry,
25
I
to
don't think he would target you.
why?
He seems to target a lot of pretty girls.
I become so sad. Anyway, I'm just gonna let that one slide. But yeah, they are all these pretty girls. They're all just, but yeah, I can't remember any of the. I know the first one, her name was Linda. I forget her last name and all that. I saw. Well, I actually posted that I was watching this in the group page, and someone commented on how they didn't like that they didn't really go into the actual killings all that much, and I can kind of see that. I mean, they explain the gist of what he did. He would beat them, strangle them, and kind of
See,
molest them.
that
But
actually is one of my complaints.
Yeah.
One of my complaints is that this shit hops around a little too much. It's hard to follow the narrative in it, especially the first like 2 episodes. After he's like kind of caught the first time, it kind of goes in sequential order after that, but it's kind of hops around a little bit too much. Like, I think if you would have done maybe like 2 more episodes, made it a 6-episode thing, and really dove into each of the slayings and sort of followed the history in a more of a linear fashion, I think this would have even been better, honestly.
And it's not like I can kind of also see how people can complain that it feels like we're on this guy's side because you're not going deep into the horrible.
Whoa.
What?
Really?
You said that earlier, dude. Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, what do you mean really?
What did I say?
You said that like people are complaining about the Zac Efron.
No, that's the movie. The movie
that's what I just said.
coming out.
I saw people complaining about this as well.
Oh, really? I didn't see
Yeah, like
that.
every time I looked this up on Google, it seemed like people were saying stuff about this and how they were referring to him as a handsome man, the entire thing, and stuff like that. And
well, I mean,
I
I don't get that at all because I've never won. I mean, maybe the only time I feel a little bit of sympathy is towards the end of this series, and it's not because I feel like he doesn't deserve what's happening to him. It's that I put myself in the situation of somebody who's facing death, and that's where I feel sympathy in a way. But yeah, and other than that, I mean, he's like, I don't ever really identify with him in like as I do in a movie. Like Jeffrey Dahmer and Dahmer, like I can identify with Jeremy Renner's performance. Like I just can kind of see what was like, you know, you have sympathy for them a little bit, but it's different in a movie than a fucking documentary, because like the documentary is very real and raw, and there's no like fantasy element to it. So I never really once in this entire documentary felt sympathy for Ted Bundy or like aligned with him in any way.
I'm not saying sympathy. I'm just saying I feel like the fact that they didn't go into how bad the killings really were. Like you said, it hops around a lot, and it's just like, oh, he killed 4 more women here, and then it's like going on to the next thing.
I'm not necessarily saying that they need to go in for that reason, though. Like I do feel like what they do show and what they do talk about is graphic enough. I'm just saying the story of the killing. Where was he at? What happened? How did he get her? You know, stuff like that. Like actually go into each killing and, you know, let us know what happened to that girl. Not just like he killed one here, he killed one here, he killed one here. You know, because to me that is less it's less informative. So that's what I'm more talking about. Not necessarily because I didn't feel like they were graphic enough.
Yeah. But that brings me to the next thing is I thought it was also crazy with it being the times that he was able to escape.
Okay, yeah, that was a huge part of this. So I had known all along that Ted Bundy had escaped. In fact, I think that in the movies that I watch, it shows him escape.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that.
I would assume.
I forgot that he escaped. I forgot, or they never showed it. I probably forgot. I forgot he escaped twice. And for whatever reason, in the movies, they make it seem like less... Like they don't make it seem as like big of a deal in the movies. Like in the documentary, it seems like a huge fucking deal that Ted Bundy had escaped. And like
the amount of days he was gone, it's like counting them down, and it's like day 45, and I'm like, oh my god, I thought it was just going to be another week thing.
The first one, he's only gone a little, like a week.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
The first time he escapes, he jumps out of a like second story library, and he practices the fall by jumping off his top bunk in his cell, which I thought was great.
Mm-hmm. He's a very smart man.
Yeah, no, he is. He's very cunning. He thinks a lot, right? He reminds me of myself in that way. Where my head's constantly moving, and I think if I was in jail, I would even though I wouldn't act on it most likely unless I was like in there for life or something, I wouldn't act on trying to escape, but I guarantee I would be thinking about how you could all the time. And
Yeah.
this was a different time too. Like that would never happen now. Like there's
No.
people like Ted Bundy are the reason why there's so much security in like prisons now, and everything is like they count everybody all the time, and they have shackles on all the time, and different stuff like
Mhm.
that. So
It's so funny. It's like that first time he escapes, they're interviewing this one cop, and the cop doesn't. He's just kind of like, oh golly gosh, this is a bad situation. I mean, we don't know. We're definitely gonna have more security next time, and it almost feels like a joke the way
yeah,
they're.
he would have been
I
gone
don't
a
know.
lot longer if he hadn't been, if it hadn't been cold.
Yeah,
Because he basically goes into kind of shock because he's so cold. And then he basically goes and gets caught, taken back to prison, and then the second escape is even more impressive because he got out through the ceiling, which you
yeah.
would
It's
think
like,
that would have been like somebody else would have done that by then. Which is just crazy. And then he's gone for so long, and this is the big part. He's gone for like a couple months. He went from like this place to Chicago to Florida to this place he went and watched a damn college football game.
yeah, he
um,
was having fun. I
yeah,
mean,
he was going to bars and things like that, and they when he was what the most disturbing thing about it is when he's on the run, he actually commits, I believe, 2 more murders.
yeah, it's like two more and then almost four, but
Yeah.
there's like
And
two other
he
girls.
kills 2 girls, almost kills 2 others in the same building, and then goes like 7 blocks away and kills another girl. And you're like, what in the hell? Like, I never would have thought that he would have been killing people while out. Like, that's always your worst fear, right? Well, shoot, he escaped. If there's any bloodshed here, there's going to be hell to pay. Like, I believe even one of the people interviewed said that, like, that they might even sue the state or something, or sue the jail or whatever. But you wouldn't I didn't think he would. I had totally forgot or never knew that he actually killed people after he escaped the second time. And in
Yeah,
fact, those were the ones he was tried for first. Am I right?
I believe so. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it was like their ultimate proof there. But
So he gets pulled over the second time he escapes, right?
yeah, kind of, yeah.
Was you
Isn't
gonna
it
say
kind of
something
just
else?
well, now I forget, but like it was kind of on a whim that he gets pulled over, isn't it? Like the cop
Yeah,
was
but
just like, oh, that.
like both times he gets caught. He just should not drive. Is essentially what would have kept him out of jail, I think. But yeah, when he gets caught, it's so weird because he's in jail for a few days, and like he won't say who he is, and he has like a bunch of stolen credit cards and stuff. And like it was like shocking to me that they didn't figure out like, hey, the like #1 most wanted criminal in the United States. He kind of looks a lot like him.
Yeah. They're showing pictures. They're like, oh, Bundy, he was a man of many faces. They're showing all his mug shots, and I'm like, well, yeah, he has a beard sometimes. His hair is a little long. Like, he still has that same insane look in his eye, though. I think that's kind of the dead giveaway there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's creepy when that's why stories from way back. No, that's not too long ago, but I mean, just any stories that aren't too current kind of freak me out because you could get away with so much more back then. People had no way of tracking anyone down or figuring out who people were.
And that's one thing that I had said. Like my coworker was talking about this, and they said that they were joking around. It's like the good old days with like serial killers. How come none of that happens nowadays? And of course, it's a joke, right? Like they don't actually want there to be serial killers. But like what he means is they don't. It doesn't happen anymore. Not like this. These icons of depravity and like sadistic human nature or something, or not human nature. They just don't exist anymore. And I said there's one reason why they don't, and it's simple. It's because they get caught before they can now. And the reason I say that is because I watch a lot of forensic files, and they didn't have this technology back then. Like like even with blood and fingerprints and everything, that like even whenever they find out who might have done something and they find out he has a yellow Volkswagen, they got a paper, like they had to go and look through like papers and like actual paper files to collect everybody who has a 78 Volkswagen Bug or whatever that's tan, and there's like 1,000 names or something, and then like they have to go and look through all of them to find Ted, and it's way different now. You just type that into a computer and it lets you know. But back then it was you had to do everything by hand, and it was ridiculous, and you had to call this place. If you needed something, you had to call to this place and that place. There wasn't even no fax machines. And,
yeah, they do say that.
Yeah. But so that's why it doesn't happen now. People get caught before they can become a serial killer. Like they can't kill, a girl in broad daylight and then go dump her in the mountains and not have some sort of evidence. Period, And like he was so ballsy, dude. Like he went and found that one girl in the mall, the one and only person who escaped him, which actually led to a lot of his first,
convictions and
not even convictions.
Suspicions. I guess.
Suspicions. But what did even happen there? She picked him out of the lineup. He didn't even get in trouble for that. Or no, he did. Right? Did he?
They were like...
or wait, that's why he was in jail the first time, right? He got convicted of that.
And then, like, she kind of picks him out, and then people were like, are you sure? Like, this guy looks like such a nice guy. And they were almost trying to convince her, like, oh, this ain't the right guy. Just based on the fact that he...
Yeah, like, he was even... like, one of the girls that he dated was even, like, working in like the office of like the police department or something like that. I forget what it was, but so he goes and follows this girl through the mall, and I assume that's how he picked out most of his victims. He'd follow them through the mall or wherever, and then follow them, and then ask for help or something like that, or ask him to come with him. He had the badge, which I do know in some of the movies he used to wear like a cast on his arm, and then he would ask people to help him load stuff into his car, and then he would hit them with like a crowbar in the back of the head.
Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like that's kind of one of the other reasons I wish they would have went into the killings more. Is it just says like, oh, little Nancy walked down the street and then she was never seen again, and I kind of want to know. Obviously you've seen movies and whatnot, but I kind of just want to know his tactics, if he's flirting with girls or if he's just grabbing them up, or like how he would actually grab them and attack them.
Yeah, and honestly, like, so he followed her, said somebody was trying to break into your car. Can you come down to the police station and identify them? She asked for a badge, and he actually pulls one out, which she was very weirded out by the dude to begin with. And she essentially does go with him. He tries to handcuff her, which I do know he was doing a lot of. And basically she got away, and he was so mad that she got away, he just drove to another place and did it to some other girl and killed her instead, which is just, it's crazy that he did this.
Yeah. And
I think one of the most interesting thing about Ted Bundy, and we see this throughout the second, the third and fourth episode, is just how much of a sociopath he is. He just doesn't. He never seemed to have remorse. He never seemed to think what he had done was wrong.
Yeah, even when he was, I don't think he did it.
Yeah, even when he was completely caught red-handed, he would act as if he shouldn't be. You know what I mean? He acted so much above everybody else. It was just so interesting of a person. And I don't think we ever saw any true change in him until he was faced with death, like in the final moments of what was happening. And that's where it was very, that's where I think the best part of this is. Well, first of all, let me go back a second. There was one girl that he killed that I believe was like a little girl, right? I
believe so.
It wasn't like a 20-year-old. And because for the most part, his MO is the same. a mid-20s girl or late teen girl, killer, like raper, killer, sometimes not in that order, and then dump her body. But there was one girl that was like a little girl, it was like a 12-year-old or something.
Yeah.
Which was fucking weird because for the most part, he didn't seem to be a pedophile. But apparently he kind of was. Am I wrong? Am I not right on that?
I think you're correct.
The
I thought it
little
was more
girl
like,
who like left school and just like got abducted.
yeah, I believe so. I mean, I feel like I don't know, like I want to say there's no rhyme or I feel like he would just get enraged and kill any girl he could get his hands on in a way, but it is kind of a weird age leap, I guess you can say, since most of them were in their 20s, but I don't know, I just picture him getting really angry and just stabbing whatever woman he can find in a way.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what he would have been, because I wouldn't see him as a pedophile either. Like I almost feel like it was more of a power thing that he had going on there.
Yeah. Well, there was that one story of him like attempting to like drown a girl, like drown a like girlfriend or something. Do you remember that? He was like holding her head underwater, and then he would,
Yeah,
like,
I
let her
did.
out, and then
She was like, "Oh, I think he's trying to kill me,"
yeah.
right?
So this is, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy how, but at the end of everything, when he was like faced with death, and he actually like repented a little bit, he found Jesus in a way.
Hmm.
And I think that happens with so many people who are like going to die. They look for God, obviously, because that's all there is left at that point.
Yeah,
Because he was gonna kill himself, I believe, and
yeah,
the like religious dude convinced him that God probably wouldn't like that, and Ted Bundy was like, "You're probably right."
yeah. He's like, "You got me again,"
Yeah.
and I
Um,
mean, yeah, that whole final, I guess, episode, well, not like final few minutes of that last
yeah, like
episode,
final
it
20
is,
minutes.
it's really hard for me to. It's just such a, I don't know. It is there. There's one thing where it says that when all those people are kind of gathered around outside and they're like shouting stuff, and you can hear them inside the place, and Bundy's like, "You think I'm crazy? They're the ones who are crazy." Like in a way, I kind of like agree with
Yeah,
that.
no, I
It's
don't like
insane.
that at all, dude. Like, I
Uh huh.
am not a fan of the
Fourth of July
yeah,
celebration.
I'm not a fan of that at all. Like, I would never do that, ever. Like, parade around that somebody's dying. Like, even if they are a notorious serial killer, I don't want, I don't want to kill anybody. Like, I don't even want
Uh-huh.
to, I'm not even pro death penalty. I'm anti death penalty.
Yeah,
Um,
I used to believe in it, but I just kind of think if, I don't know, if someone I knew was murdered, I wouldn't feel comfortable sitting in and watching that same person just be
like,
killed as well. It would disturb me more than anything. I'd rather just have them be locked up in a shitty prison forever.
like if I worked in a prison and like there was a death penalty and stuff, like I don't know how they choose who throws the switch, but I ain't doing it.
I know.
Like
That's
I'm
what
not killing
disturbs
somebody, yo.
that is what disturbs me the most is no matter what, like someone has to technically murder the murderer.
One thing that I found about interesting about Ted Bundy was when he finally admitted to what he did, and he finally tried to give a motive in a way, and he basically says like sexual deviancy. It was he started talking. He said that he had talked to a bunch of people in prison, and all of the violent men in prison, all of them, not some of them, all of them had one thing in common, that they were addicted to pornography. Which I found interesting. It made me think of somebody I know in real life, and I started thinking about if they were a killer. And I'm talking about you.
Oh,
And I was like, no, this can't be right because I watch porn obsessively all the time and I haven't killed anybody.
or have you?
No, but I'm just kidding. But that was kind of interesting as to how he blamed it on porn, essentially.
Yeah.
Which is obviously ludicrous, but at the same time, I do think that what he is saying is right in a way. I think that most of what he did had come from, one, being a sociopath and having a total disregard for other human beings, but two, I think it was in sexual nature.
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense. It is disturbing. I mean, porn, there's so much like aggressive porn out there, especially nowadays. You get actual videos on the internet and stuff, and I can totally see how these crazy people might act upon these unrealistic urges and just be violent and gross.
So before we wrap it up, I did want. I found a list of the, I guess, people that Ted Bundy had attacked or killed. So just to sort of go through those a little bit, because this actually tells you what happened to them a little bit. So basically, Linda Healy bludgeoned and abducted from her bedroom on campus. Joni Lenz, this is one of the people who survived, bludgeoned in her bed, genitals mutilated. She survived with no memory of the attack. Donna Manson, abducted, never found. Bundy confessed to burning her severed head in his girlfriend's fireplace. Jeez. Suzanne, abducted, severed head discovered in Bundy's graveyard on Taylor Mountain. Roberta Parks disappeared from campus, head discovered on Taylor Mountain.
I forgot that was kind of his thing, was taking off their heads.
Brenda, last seen talking to attractive man sporting a cast outside a bar in Tacoma, skull found on Taylor Mountain. Georgianne Hawkins, strangled with nylon stockings. Bundy admitted to keeping her body for some time after death and would perform odd rituals, such as shampooing her hair on her corpse or applying makeup to her face. So there was even more weird stuff that wasn't in the doc.
Yeah.
Janice Ott. This was one of the Lake girls. One of two women Bundy kidnapped and murdered during the summer rampage at Lake Samahamahish. Denise was second murdered at the lake. Nancy Wilcox disappeared in Utah. Body was never found. Melissa Smith strangled, beaten, raped, and sodomized by Bundy. Laura was beaten to death with a crowbar and sexually assaulted on Halloween night. Carol, she survived. Bundy lured DeRanch into a vehicle pretending to be police. She fought him off and escaped. DeRanch would eventually identify Bundy in a lineup. We know about her. Debbie Kent, high schooler abducted and murdered by Bundy a few hours after DeRanch. Was that her? So maybe she wasn't that young. I don't know what high schooler means. That was the girl, though.
Yeah, I was thinking like 14 or 15 when you said that, not 10 or 12.
I don't know if that qualifies as pedophile or not. I mean, it qualifies as illegal, but does that make
it's not like... I don't think.
A pedophile? I don't know. I wouldn't say that he that fits his MO very much. Unknown hitchhiker. Bundy confessed to a second murder of a unidentified hitchhiker. The body was never recovered. Two bodies found in Washington, 18-year-old Carol and an unidentified female skeleton. Bundy never confessed, but he is suspected to be the murderer. Karen, bludgeoned and stabbed in Colorado. Julie, strangled to death, beaten, body was never recovered. Denise, disappeared while bicycling. Bundy confessed, but the body was never discovered. 13-year-old victim snatched from the playground. That was the one. Lynette.
Okay.
Her body was never recovered.
That's a weird one. That's a young age.
Susan Curtis disappeared while walking to her dormitory in Utah. Body was never found. Melanie Cooley. Bundy is the prime suspect of the disappearance of Melanie Cooley, who was found bludgeoned to death in Colorado. There's a few more. Lisa Levy, Margaret Bowman, and Karen Chandler Kathy Kleiner, that was the one in the Chi Omega sorority. 2 of them survived. Cheryl Thomas was also there and survived. That was the girl who survived.
Yeah.
8 blocks away, so she survived too. Kimberly Leach, 12-year-old, was raped and murdered by Bundy before he hid her remains in a pig shed in Florida. So another 12-year-old. So yeah. But there's suspected that there is even way more that he either forgot about, didn't have any details, because he had confessed to a bunch of people that he couldn't remember where it was, what it was,
Yeah, you just gave me the spooks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just I hate hearing that the body was never found because I picture those people's parents. Like I mean, my cat ran away once and I was disturbed for months. I mean, let alone my child disappearing and then never even finding the body.
So the final little bit, so Ted Bundy, while he was in prison, he married a woman and had a kid. That blew my mind. I didn't even know that.
Me neither. Like the there's not really. I looked up the kid a little bit and couldn't really find much. I didn't really look too much into it, but her name was Rose Bundy, I believe.
Yeah, that's crazy. Hopefully that kid
is all right.
Yeah, he was sentenced to death at 42 years of age, which this is very eerie and I didn't know. So he was sentenced to death, or he was, electrocuted on January 24th, 1989, 30 years before this documentary was released, because it came out January 24th, 2019.
Whoa.
That was definitely intentional, but
yeah.
I did not know, and I hadn't heard anybody talk about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah, wow.
Man. And that one more thing I was going to say is just that ending of the documentary after he's been executed. It just kind of leaves you with a weird feeling because you're listening to his interviews and him talking throughout the entire thing, and then it's like he's dead in the dock, and then the last 10 minutes or so, that's just it. He's dead. Like, you don't hear him anymore, and it's just so weird. He was such a, like I've said, full of himself, kind of overly confident and everything, and then they kill him, and that's the end of this terrible person. It just left me with like a weird feeling.
Yeah, and I can't think of, because I know Jeffrey Dahmer wasn't
he murdered in prison?
Yeah, he was murdered in prison. He was beaten to death by a fellow inmate at Columbia Correctional Institute.
Jeez.
And I think that Charles Manson died on his own.
Yeah, he died like a year ago. He was like freaking 80-some years old. He lived way too long. But then Ed Gein just died on his own. Yeah, I don't even know. He's like the big killer. He was actually put to death.
Also, John Wayne Gacy, I forgot, he died of lethal injection in 1994.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which he was another one that doesn't. I was hoping that, I would love to see more documentaries like this on Netflix, with John Wayne Gacy and Jeff Dahmer and Ed Gein and whoever.
Yeah,
else.
Me too.
Yeah, because
they're
just so fascinating, I don't know. Was Ed Gein? No, I think he died of. He died.
Yeah, he just died.
Yeah, old age. Yeah.
Or I think he had he had something wrong with him.
He was born in 1906.
Yeah, I mean some of them. I think I looked him up the other day. He had cancer or some sort of disease that he died from.
Yeah. But yeah, I would love to see more of these. This was really good, and honestly, I had rated it on Letterboxd, and after talking about it, I'm actually going to come up in my rating. I believe I gave it an 8.5, but I'm going to come up to a 9 on this one.
Dang. Yeah, I also rated it, and I gave it the same rating of an 8.5. I would say it's probably a 9 quality though, 8.5 to 9. especially since it's like I said, I knew nothing about him going into it, so it definitely did a good job of educating me.
Mm. Yeah, it was. I think Moods gave it a 10, so he really loved it. And I do remember
And
one of his biggest complaints with a couple of movies that we watched, both the '02 and the '86 one, was that they didn't go into a lot of the other stuff that Ted Bundy did, like a lot of the history. Because I do feel like most movies don't really feel complete with Ted Bundy. Like, and both of them are long. Like the Bundy one from 2002 is like 2 hours, and then I think the other one is like 3 hours, but they still skip a lot of stuff.
yeah, I almost don't feel like I've never seen a movie on him actually, and I almost don't feel like watching one now because I feel like it'll just kind of it's like I know everything I need to know, and I feel like they'll probably leave stuff out.
How many serial killer movies have you seen? Like, have you seen Henry?
Honestly, I don't really, unless you count Deranged, I
I
don't
do
really
count
think I've.
Deranged.
Okay, well, I've seen that. I mean, I really haven't seen any, I don't think, besides that.
So you've never seen Henry?
No, I haven't. You
You
tell me
need
to
to
watch
see
it, but I
Henry.
forget
Yeah,
about it.
Henry's really good. Henry, Dahmer is one of my favorites from '02. That one's really good. You seen My Friend Dahmer, right?
No, I missed that one. I didn't get around
Really?
to watching it.
That
Yeah.
was really good. It almost made my top 10. Um, there's one on. There's a couple that I've seen on Ted Bundy. I had seen a couple on Dahmer. Um, there was one. Oh, I'd seen a couple on Ed Gein. I'd seen at least two on Ed Gein. Deranged. Well, if you count Chainsaw and Psycho and all the other ones, but
No,
like
I would
more.
like I wouldn't say.
Yeah, like there was one that Kane Hodder was in that I had seen. I don't really remember it. Um, I think I seen one on Gacy. I don't really know a ton about Gacy, but Zodiac is a really good one, about the Zodiac killer, which is one of the more interesting serial killers because he was never caught.
Mm,
Did you know that?
I did know that actually. I
Yeah,
don't know anything else about him, but I know that they never caught him.
yeah. The
But
Zodiac one
yeah,
is really good.
yeah, I would like to start watching more. I remember back in high school for our law class, I think we watched like a documentary style movie on Charles Manson, but that's about all. That's pretty much
I think
everything.
Manson is my least favorite out of everybody.
He's, shall I say, overrated with the.
He just didn't kill anybody.
No, he was crazy and he had other people do his work.
But I will tell you that the Manson film, Helter Skelter from '76, is really good.
And it's an actual just movie.
Yeah,
Like it's not that.
it's a
Okay,
mini
I thought that's
it's a
what I.
mini series. It's like
I was thinking
two
that's.
episodes.
I was thinking that's what I watched in school, but I'm wrong. So I forget what it was.
Yeah, it's like 4 hours long or something.
Jeez.
But I have seen the Manson murders are very interesting. Because I did watch a couple of documentaries on the Manson murders. Manson isn't that like notorious in terms of serial killers. Is like he didn't do that much. But
Yeah.
the whole like La Bianca Tate murders are really, really like vile and gross.
Mm, I feel.
So yeah. Um, you rated it. I rated it. I think that's it.
Yeah, that will do it. I don't really have much else to say on it.
I think our next thing is the noir thing,
Yeah, I'm down.
which I believe comes out.
I thought it came out.
Is it out?
I thought Mike posted today that it came out today. I didn't actually check though. I might be wrong.
Okay, so that'll be our next one.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
Heck yeah.
All right. So with that said, take us out of here.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening to episode 25 of Netflix and Chill. This has been fun. Hope you guys had fun. Definitely an interesting thing to talk about. And we shall hopefully be back sooner than later with the noir, horror noir thing that I just forgot the name of. But anyway, yeah, so I'm Carly, that's JP, and we are out of here.
Deuces.
Peace.